My name is Heather Engen, and I'm part of the R&D team here at the Center for Innovative Technology. As you are probably already aware, CIT manages the Commonwealth Research Commercialization Fund, CRCF. Today's presentation will provide an overview of the application process, including tips for preparing strong applications and common pitfalls. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., I'm presenting a webinar focused specifically on the budget and budget narrative. If you are unable to participate live, that PowerPoint and video will also be available for download by the end of the week. I hope many of you were able to view one of the LOI webinars that we hosted last month. If so, you'll recall that in FY2018, $2.5 million are available to award through 5 funding programs. There is not a predetermined number of awards, including by program, industry sector, or otherwise. Our program has become increasingly competitive, and our intent is to award the full amount of funds available to strong and innovative projects with high potential for return on investment in Virginia. As you may recall from the LOI webinar, the CRCF program is for applicants who have a clear idea of an unmet need or opportunity. Their technology should exhibit strong potential to economically benefit the Commonwealth. Applicants should have a well-developed, detailed, and realistic picture of the CRCF project. The commercialization strategy should include information about when commercialization is anticipated to occur and what steps are required to get there. CRCF monies should primarily fund technology development and are intended to advance the technology in a way that makes it more attractive for larger scale public or private funding. Potential applicants have to determine whether the timing is right for CRCF funding. Are resources identified and available? Does the team have the necessary personnel and partners? Is there a fleshed out strategy for IP protection? The project must have a detailed and achievable plan of work, budget, and timeline. If you are a prior CRCF award recipient, projects may be a continuation of your previously funded project or may be for new work. This should be discussed in your proposal. The 6 industry sectors eligible for funding this round should look familiar as you selected the primary alignment of your technology when preparing your LOI. This cannot be modified in your application. For 3 industry sectors, energy, environment, and IT, work must also be in the identified subsector. CIT reviewed this alignment when approving your projects for application submission. This year in the application, you will not have the opportunity to select a secondary industry sector. Although we are not collecting this data in the online form, we encourage you to call out multi-sector alignment within your proposal. The required materials that you will need to submit your FY2018 application can be found online at the URL on this slide. At the solicitation landing page, you'll also find general resources to aid you in the application process, such as our FAQs and these webinars. You'll want to click on the link for the specific program that you were approved to apply under. Here you'll find the program guidelines, templates for your proposal and budget, and a sample application. Like the LOIs, all applications must be completed and submitted online via the CRCF portal. The CRCF application process is conducted entirely online. We will not accept hard copies or emailed submissions. I mentioned that we have created sample applications for each program. They are available for download at our website. These are in PDF format and are meant to help you prepare for the application process. They may not be used for application to our program. Remember that each program has its own sample application to mimic that program's online application form. So you'll want to make sure you're downloading the sample from the correct program subpage. The one thing that you can't get to from our website is your application. Because our application process is by invitation only, and by that I mean you may only apply if we approved your LOI, you can only access your application via the URL at the bottom of your approval email. If you don't recall seeing this email, search your inbox for a message from CRCF at CIT.org. As you can see, it's entitled Instructions for Submitting CRCF FY2018 Application. If you cannot find it, email us at the same address with either your LOI request ID number, your CRCF reference number, or your organization name and PI last name, and we'll be able to resend the notice. You'll need to click on the hyperlink or copy and paste the URL at the bottom of the email you received into a browser window. That will take you to the login page for the CRCF portal. So let's go ahead and walk through the application form together. Let's see if I can do this for you. When you log into when you click on the URL, it should take you to a page that looks like this. You'll use the same login information that you used to create your LOI. If you've forgotten your password, there is a link to reset it. Some of our applicants are affiliated with multiple organizations. For example, you may previously have submitted under a university and a private sector company. In this case, when you log in, you'll need to select the organization whose project was approved and whose application you're working on. So you can see here I have several organizations, so we're going to select that one. Otherwise, if you are affiliated with only one organization, you'll go directly to this welcome screen. If you scroll to the bottom, in the Pending Applications section, you'll see a blue hyperlink next to your project which says Revise. So now in my case I have several, but you should only have one application to work on. So we'll go ahead and click the Revise button to access the application. I've gone ahead and plugged in some of my responses already, just so that you don't have to wait for me to type them in. So you would come to a blank page, but here you'll find it already populated. You can start working on your application before you intend to submit it. You can always save a section and come back to it later. As long as you see that Revise link, which we saw on the previous page, in fact, we'll go back here and look at it again. So as long as you see that it says Revise, you know that your application has not been submitted yet. You do need to make sure that you do submit it before the application deadline. It's not enough just to have plugged in your information and saved it. You do need to submit it. So once you complete a section, hit the button at the bottom of the screen to save and proceed to advance to the next section. So we'll go ahead and do that. You can always move back to a previous section by clicking on the hyperlink in the navigation bar at the top of the form, which you saw me do. We went back to the welcome page. I'm not going to click on it now, but that's how you can move back to previous sections if you want. But you'll always want to hit that save and proceed button to make sure that you save anything you were working on. So the authorized representative is an individual who is authorized to execute legal documents on behalf of the applicant organization. In the case of a college or university, the authorized representative is an individual from the Office of Research, Office of Sponsored Programs, or a similar office. The principal investigator or department chair would not be accepted as the AR. If the authorized representative and the principal investigator are the same individual, which is often the case for small business applicants, you can indicate this by selecting yes at this question and advancing to the next section. So if I were to say no, you'll see that it would pop up with information to populate, but we're going to go ahead and say that yes, it is the same individual. So again, a reminder that for university applicants, the AR and PI should not be the same person. I forgot to mention, I'm using a commercialization program application for demonstration purposes. So it's similar, all the programs have similarities, but of course they are all a little bit different. So, if you are not applying to the commercialization program, it will look a little bit different. Okay, so this is the project information page, and this is where you'll indicate the amount of funds you are requesting, the project match, the period of performance, and this is where you'll upload your proposal, budget, and appendix documents. So you'll note that certain fields are not modifiable. The CRCF reference number, the CRCF program type, the CRCF project title, and the industry sector. If you discover an error in any of this information, please notify the CRCF team right away using that crcf@cit.org email address. The CIT reference number, listed on here also as the CRCF reference number, is a unique number assigned to your project at the LOI stage when your project was approved for application. It indicates the funding program, the solicitation, and the industry sector. This is different than the 8-digit request ID that was assigned via the online portal. Moving forward, please always use the CIT reference number when preparing your application materials or when contacting our staff. The program guidelines will direct you to use this number in the file name for all uploaded documents. Note that it's at the top of the project information page, right here, should you need a refresher before uploading your application materials. Now, I actually went ahead and uploaded one, but I'm just going to walk you through that upload process so you can see exactly how it's done. So this is for the budget, so it will be an Excel document. So you can see here I've selected a file. Now I need to hit Upload File. So once it's finished, you'll see the name of the file pop up here, and then you can just close this window, and then it will pop up down into this screen. So we'll go ahead and do that with the appendix as well. And you can see that I've named my documents with the nomenclature that we request, which is it should match your CRCF reference number. So you can see here, this one I've called, so my demo project number is named CP18-000.CS. So I named my first file CP18-000-CS_proposal. And then this one was underscore budget. And this last one is underscore appendix. It's always aggravating waiting for things to upload. But anyway, okay, so this is probably very similar to what your experience will be. So we'll close this window, and you'll see I have all of my documents uploaded. I just want to remind you that you may upload one document per upload field, and each file may be no more than 5 megabytes. Additionally, all uploaded files must be in PDF format with the exception of the budget, which must be in Excel format. So you'll have 2 PDFs, which is the proposal and the appendix, and then you'll have one Excel document. So we have everything filled out here, so we're going to go ahead and say save and proceed. This is the certification page. On this page, you are certifying that your organization and application are compliant with our guidelines. So obviously make sure you review the eligibility criteria outlined in the program guidelines before you proceed. So I'm sure by now everyone's familiar, but I'm just going to pull over the CIT website. So if you were just coming to our page, we'll try to mimic this. So you could come over here to initiatives, and you'll see the FY2018 solicitation. Of course, you can always use the URL up here, which we've tried to provide you on many documents. And then you would select the program that you are applying to. So in this case, we've been using the commercialization program as an example. So I'll click on that. And over here are all of the documents that you need for your application. So this is the guidelines, and this is what you'll need to read, and you'll find the eligibility criteria in the guidelines. So when you certify that you're eligible to apply, you're certifying that you've read this and that you understand the criteria and that you are eligible. So we also have our FAQs, which I've attached to this webinar as a handout. And then this is the template for the commercialization program. Here we have the budget template, and this is the sample application that I mentioned, that we've created to assist you in preparing your paperwork. So each page has a similar, there's a document page on the side just like this. So let's go back to our, so we're back to our application. So we're going to go ahead and say that we are eligible to apply. Okay, so you have this opportunity to review your materials before you submit them. As I already mentioned, you always have the option to just save and return to your work later. But before the deadline, you do need to hit submit. We're going to go ahead and submit this now for our demonstration purposes. So you'll have this one last prompt warning you that you can't make any changes after you submit. So we'll say OK, and then you would see this confirmation page. Applications may not be modified after they are submitted, as I mentioned. I already mentioned too that the progress can be saved by hitting the Save and Proceed button on all the pages. So after you've submitted your application, you'll see this confirmation on your screen. Now you will receive an automatically generated email, but this email typically takes 30 to 60 minutes. It could take even longer if the system is particularly busy. So don't be alarmed if you don't receive an email confirmation right away. Having said that, if you don't receive the notification within several hours, please contact the CRCF team. As I already indicated, you need to make sure that you hit the submit button before the program's deadline. For the commercialization program and the SBIR and STTR matching funds programs, the deadline is at noon on Tuesday, January 16, 2018. For the Eminent Researcher Recruitment Program and the Matching Funds Program, the deadline is Wednesday, January 31, 2018. The portal automatically closes at noon on the date of the application. Applications that are in progress but not submitted will not be considered. We strongly encourage applicants to not wait until the last minute to submit. The system does slow down when it gets busy, so it will save you aggravation if you can avoid using it during that heavy traffic window. So each proposal template requires 2 to 3 sections depending on the program. In the template, you'll find headings for the technical discussion and strategic plan. For SBIR and STTR applicants, there's also a separate commercialization plan. The guidelines spell out the content that should be included in your application. Hopefully this format will be useful as an outline for your submission. We have provided templates to make this as easy and straightforward as possible. Once you've completed the proposal, it should be uploaded as a PDF document, which of course we saw in our previous screen. So of course, normally you would be doing all of this part first. Here's a screenshot of several sections of a commercialization program proposal template. I actually have one that I downloaded. So let me just quickly open this. So again, this is for the commercialization program, but they would all be similar. Here you can see, see if I can drag that back over. So here's the template. You would go into the footer to enter the CIT reference number and the project title. So hopefully people know that you can come into the footer this way, and this is how you would edit that document. You can see here's a box that you can click on to enter content for the technical discussion. In the commercialization program and the SBIR and STTR matching funds programs, applicants have this table to fill out, so you would fill out the cells that are highlighted in yellow. As I mentioned, the templates do vary by program, so you'll need to make sure that you're downloading the one for your specific program, the program that you're submitting under. You'll also want to make sure that you're using the current templates. Make sure that it's, not a template that you've downloaded from a previous solicitation. You'll want to use the FY2018 solicitation template because they do change from solicitation to solicitation, and definitely this year's template is different than last year's. On the template, you'll see the prompts stating enter content here. That's the space where you'll click to either type in your content or to paste in content that you've prepared somewhere else. As I already mentioned, make sure that you complete the footer with your CRCF reference number and project title. And we already talked about the applicants to commercialization program and SBIR and STTR that you would need to fill out this applicant description table. So we're going to just go back into the PowerPoint. Overall page limits for the proposal are program specific. This information can be found in the guidelines for your program. With the exception of the executive summary, the breakdown or use of space is up to each applicant. Just make sure that you include all of the required content. Additionally, a page break has been included between the technical discussion and strategic plan. And for the SBIR and STTR templates, there's also a page break between the strategic plan and the commercialization plan. Any white space left between sections will not count against your page count. So feel free to start the next section on a separate page of the template. The uploaded materials should be in final form without track changes or internal comments. The proposal should be converted to PDF before uploading it and submitting it via the online form. Uploaded materials should be saved with the nomenclature described in the guidelines. The budget template has two tabs, one for the budget and one for the budget narrative. Since tomorrow we have a webinar specifically focused on the budget, I won't talk about the budget today, but I will mention that if your project's period of performance will run longer than a year, you'll need to email the CRCF team for a multi-year template. The appendix is the last required component for all applicants. There's no template for the appendix, but the guidelines for each program provide a very clear direction on the required content. Again, content does vary by program, although they are similar. All programs require a letter from the authorized representative and CVs. Letters of support are optional. For the SBIR and STTR matching funds programs, you must provide evidence of your federal award as a part of your appendix. If you're providing your contract, we only need the signed first page. If you're applying to CRCF before a decision has been made regarding your federal award, we request that you include a document indicating the submission deadline, the sponsoring agency, whether it's a phase 1 or a phase 2, the project title, and the estimated date of award. If you're providing a screenshot of the submission, just make sure that the information is legible. CRCF funding is contingent upon receipt of the federal award. If you learn the status of your submission at any time during the application review process, you should notify CIT within 2 business days. We discourage the inclusion of proprietary information, but if it is necessary for a thorough understanding of your technology or project, it must be provided in the appendix and clearly marked as proprietary. If you have additional materials that you would like to include with your proposal, you may do so in the appendix up to the page limit. Please note that the page limit does include your program's required materials. If space is an issue for you, it is acceptable to combine materials into a single page as long as they remain legible. For example, you may wish to include several letters of support on a single page. Anything you want reviewed must be included in your proposal materials. We will not reach out to applicants for additional materials or information, even if they indicate that more materials are available upon request. And please note that if your appendix exceeds the allowable page count, the additional materials will not be reviewed or considered during the review process. We do not provide sample proposals or share winning proposals, but we do have some suggestions to help you craft an effective proposal. We understand the effort that goes into submission and the potential value of receiving a CRCF award. While these tips, along with the FAQs, feedback from the CRCF team, or other available resources, are provided to help you craft a strong and impactful submission, they are not a guarantee for CRCF award. So first, let's talk a little bit about this strategy. Focus your application on CRCF work. Demonstrate why CRCF funding is critical. Project economic benefits to Virginia. I think this is something many applicants struggle with. So demonstrate that you are thinking through to commercialization and beyond. We are a state-funded grant program, so the Commonwealth is making an investment in Virginia with this program. Naturally, we want to see the return on investment. Your project may be early stage, but we're asking you to envision how your technology might benefit the Commonwealth economically. For example, could there be job creation potential once your technology reaches the commercialization stage? Would there be the opportunity to spin out the technology into a new company? If you're with a university, could the IP generate revenue? Would there be different opportunities for collaboration with a manufacturing plant here in the Commonwealth? Those are just some examples of economic potential for the Commonwealth. Your projected outcomes can be high level, but this is where you'll provide a picture of what the potential could be. Of course, our reviewers are evaluating how realistic these goals are, so you do need to be realistic in your projections. Discuss plans for commercialization. This is required for all applicants, but for SBIR and STTR, it is a standalone section of the proposal. You'll want to demonstrate the foundation for making a claim on market opportunity. You'll want to highlight the competitive advantage of the proposed solution and market penetration strategies. So present a thorough proposal with a logical, realistic work plan. Include appropriate team and/or partners to accomplish the goals, and then discuss plans to secure and protect IP. One thing to note is that the work plan is more than just a bulleted list. It should be an explanation of the tasks and/or specific activities that will take place. The strength of the team is evaluated and CVs are required. These do get reviewed during the application process. In dual or multi-party projects, executed IP agreements are required before awarded funds can be dispersed. They must be durable enough to satisfy commercialization, so the team should think through plan and timing. Remember that CRCF is not a major equipment acquisition program. There's no cap on equipment requests, but the focus and use of CRCF funds should be primarily on technology development. So those are sort of strategic points that you can make as you go through. Now, thinking a little bit about the content and formatting, refer to the program guidelines for direction on content and formatting. We actually spell out the font and font size that you should be using. Make sure that you use the correct program-specific templates from this solicitation. So as I already mentioned, the templates have changed since last year, so you want to make sure that you're using this year's template and make sure that you're using the template for your program. Present your content clearly and concisely. Use space wisely. Graphics are included in the page count, so consider the value of large images or tables, large headings, etc. Adhere to the maximum allowable page counts. Consider how much background information is necessary to accurately describe your technology. Try to avoid repetitive content. If you think that we've asked for content in more than one section, you only need to provide the content once, and then you can always refer back to that section. But certainly that is not our intention, and we have tried not to do that. The executive summary is meant to provide a high-level overview of the proposed project. This is not meant to be a lengthy, detailed description of the work. Rather, it's where the reviewer can quickly and easily get a sense of the problem, your proposed technology solution, and who's involved. We're talking in the ballpark of a paragraph. Spend time later in the proposal spelling out how work will be accomplished, the credentials of key personnel, and how the work will impact the Commonwealth and industry. For the executive summary, it's very high level. For the SBIR and STTR programs, you'll provide a brief overview of your federal project, a brief overview of the CRCF project, and articulate how the CRCF project will advance the work of the federal project. We understand that we're asking you to explain your project in a limited number of pages, so as I already mentioned, we never expect you to repeat information. One more comment about the executive summary: it should be suitable for a general audience. So we want to make sure that the content could be used publicly to describe your project. So keep that in mind as you're preparing it. This seems fairly obvious, but the proposed work needs to be realistic. You should also consider what funding will be needed to get the technology to market. The detailed work plan. This is a critical component of your proposal. It's a description of the work you plan to accomplish. CRCF is seeking a comprehensive overview of how the project will be completed and how the funds will be used. So this should include tasks and activities, subtasks, and measurable milestones that demonstrate that the project is on task. The timeline is how long it will take to complete and commercialize the project. A graphic timeline is a required element for all applications, and it should align with the work plan. Both elements are required. The graphic timeline cannot be used in place of a work plan. The graphic timeline should depict tasks, subtasks, and milestones, and when they will occur or will be completed against the project's period of performance. If you need a little help on what a graphic timeline is, that's something you can find online. Just do a quick Google search and you'll see all kinds of examples of graphic timelines. Our proposals also require an evaluation plan. This should be an overview of the criteria that describes performance measures for determining whether project objectives and milestones have been met. Criteria that defines long-term project success and how project execution will be managed. This discussion goes beyond identifying the frequency of meetings and software that may be used for this process. For the SBIR and STTR matching funds programs, clearly state if the federal award is pending. In the guidelines, we provide feedback on how content is weighted during the review process. Review the evaluation criteria to help you prepare your content. For example, if you look at the strategic alignment bullet in the evaluation criteria section of the guidelines for the matching funds program, you'll note that 10% of the score is based on the ratio of indirect costs to CRCF request and the strength of the private sector partnership. So you might choose to increase that score by lowering the indirect costs that you're requesting from CRCF. As already mentioned, if you're stuck in a section, don't be afraid to try searching online for guidance. There's a wealth of online resources that can walk you through putting together an evaluation plan, a graphic timeline. Many of these components can be found online. In regards to consistency and accuracy, make sure that the budget correlates to the application materials. you want to make sure that the numbers on the budget narrative are the same as the numbers on the budget. Sometimes we see people, we assume that they've made a change to one of those tabs and they forget to go back and update the other tab. So just make sure that those numbers are consistent and then that they're consistent with numbers that you provide in your proposal. You'll also want to make sure that the information keyed into the online questionnaire is consistent with the proposal content and with the budget. CIT runs reports from the data entered into the online questionnaire, so it's important to make sure that this information is accurate. So pay close attention before submitting your application. For resubmissions on the online form, when prompted to enter the number of the most recent CRCF submission, this is the most recent submission prior to the one that you're currently submitting. So it's not the FY2018 project, it's the prior submission. So that's in the case of a resubmission. If you're trying again for funding, it would be the most recent non-funded submission. In the narrative, you'll want to discuss what work has been done in the interim since the previous submission, or if it was a case where you were awarded but had to decline the award, same thing. You'll want to address what work has been done in the interim to advance the technology. If there were concerns raised by reviewers during that previous process, you'll want to address those concerns in your materials. For follow-on submissions, briefly highlight how CRCF funds help to achieve particular outcomes in your prior project, and then how the new funding will continue to advance the technology towards commercialization. So that's kind of, some suggestions as you're thinking about your proposal. And I know it's a lot to take in, so like I said, we will post this. So, if today you're kind of getting some ideas and then you start actually working on the work, you can kind of come back to this material to help you at that point. Common pitfalls. If you're previously familiar with CRCF and prepared an application during a prior funding round, don't resubmit those materials because the template has changed. There's been changes in the guidelines, so you need to, you can certainly reuse your content, but you'll need to plug it into the new template and you'll want to make sure that it's still relevant to our most recent guidelines. Each program has different requirements, so if you're using the wrong template, there's a high probability that your proposal will be missing key elements. If you are having difficulty finding the correct template, please reach out to us. It may also be helpful to call out some common deficiencies that we encounter. This is important because applications that don't comply with the guidelines will not proceed past our initial review. CIT has no obligation to reach out to applicants to request clarification or more information. So make sure you provide sufficient detail to allow an understanding of the work. Include all required elements. Omitting can result in your application not moving forward, so make sure you have a detailed work plan, that you have a graphic timeline, that you've included CVs, that you have an evaluation plan. We need all of those components to review your application. You'll want to recall that caps exist on some budget categories, so pay particular attention to your direct cost versus indirect cost ratio. This year, the indirect cost cap is on the direct cost request as it relates to the total CRCF request. Work being conducted by an applicant organization versus a subcontractor or a consultant. The applicant organization must do the majority of the work, at least 51% of the proposed CRCF work. The evaluation plan is the actual performance measures or metrics that you hope to achieve. So this is where you're letting us know what is the criteria that defines long-term success? What are the project goals? This is where you'll link project activities to their intended outcomes. So you'll want to clarify program objectives and goals. You'll want to think about assessing attainment of objectives. Think about planning and implementation issues. Developing evaluation methods. This is where you might share some information about the administrative mechanism for ensuring that the project is staying on task. These are all things you want to think about as you prepare your evaluation plan, in addition to the timeline for evaluation activities. So finally, we talked a lot about the economic development potential for Virginia in my tips section. So, I hope that information will help you, but make sure that you include that material in your proposal. Finally, make sure that you proofread your proposal. Look for typos and grammatical errors, because all of those can lead to an unsuccessful application. As you likely noticed during the LOI process, this year our programs have staggered deadlines. The application deadline for our 3 private sector programs is at noon on Tuesday, January 16. The application deadline for the Matching Funds program and the Eminent Researcher Recruitment program is at noon on Wednesday, January 31. Deadlines are firm and late submissions will not be accepted. Given that our program is only available for Virginia organizations, I assume that everyone understands that our deadlines are Eastern Standard Time. Award announcements are expected in early June. So I wanted to quickly talk about the review process. Once you've submitted your application, what happens between then and when the awards are announced in the beginning of June? Initially, all applications are reviewed by CIT for administrative compliance. For example, applications that are missing required elements or lack sufficient detail may not advance to the next round of review. If we discover that any applicants are not eligible for our funding program, those applications will be removed from consideration. But applications that do advance to the next stage will be reviewed by subject matter experts, or SMEs. They are assessing the projects for technical merit and for commercialization potential. They score the proposals using criteria that is provided to you in the program guidelines. As I already mentioned, you'll want to look for evaluation criteria and you can find that in the table of contents for the program guidelines. The top scoring proposals will advance to the legislatively appointed Research and Technology Investment Advisory Committee, or RTAC. The 10-member RTAC panel reviews all applications and makes award recommendations to the CIT Board of Directors. The CIT Board of Directors makes the final award decisions, and as I already mentioned, for the FY2018 solicitation, we expect those award announcements to be made in early June of 2018. CIT provides many resources on our website to assist you through the application process. Participating in today's webinar is a great step. As I already mentioned, tomorrow I'll be hosting a webinar focused specifically on the budget section of the application. In January, a colleague will be hosting 2 similar sessions. So if you get started on the process and find that you have additional questions, you're welcome to participate again or check out that recording. And of course, you can always reach out to our team at crcf@cit.org. At our website, you'll find the program guidelines and templates for each program, as well as our FAQs. If at any time throughout the solicitation you have additional questions, the best way to reach our team is through the email address crcf@cit.org. That inbox is monitored by numerous members of our team to ensure prompt responses to all the emails we receive. We are available during business hours, Monday through Friday. All approved applicants and participants in today's webinar have been added to our listserv, but if you have additional team members who might wish to sign up, please visit the URL provided on this slide. This concludes the prepared portion of my presentation. I would like to now take a moment to review the questions that have already been submitted via the CRCF web control panel. Okay, so we have quite a few questions that have been submitted, so I'll just start walking through these questions. The first question, should matching funds be dollar for dollar with the amount of CRCF funds requested? Yes, our programs require a one-to-one match. For the SBIR and STTR programs, The federal award is that match, so it always exceeds what you're requesting from CRCF, because you could request up to $50,000 for those two funding programs, but otherwise it's always at least a one-to-one match. You may supply additional monies, but you have to provide a match for any monies that you're requesting from CRCF. Somebody else requested if there was any guidance on the matching amount. I'm hoping that previous answer answers that question as well, but I would like to remind you that tomorrow we have a webinar focused specifically on the budget. So we'll talk more about examples of matching. Yeah, so I would recommend that you participate in that webinar as well, and I think that you will get more insight. If you're not able to participate live, then you can just download it after the fact. Somebody asks the question, should work plan and timeline start in June after the award, or can the work begin now and then demonstrate how CRCF funds will be used and how the work plan will continue after the June award date? So we hope that you're working already, but CRCF funds can only cover your project after June 16. So you're welcome to be working on your technology now, but our project cannot begin until after June 16, and our monies cannot cover work until after June 16. Somebody asks, is there a page limit on the proposal or budget narrative? And then they say, you know, that they saw that there's an 11-page limit for the appendix. You're correct. There is an 11-page limit for the appendix. The budget and budget narrative are a separate upload, so they're not part of the appendix, and there is no page limit on the budget and budget narrative. You'll want to make sure that you fill out both of those tabs. You know, put as much detail as you need to put into the budget narrative. That is, the more detail, the better. Let's see, somebody else asks, just to confirm, the limit for the CRCF proposal is 8 pages of text, even if it gets spread out over 9 pages because of the mandatory page breaks. Yes, so if you have white space between sections of your proposal, that is not a problem. We are just looking at the actual content, and that's what we use to determine the page limit. Now, and so this person asked a very specific, you know, they use specific numbers. Of course, each program has different caps. So you refer to the program guidelines for the caps for your program, but the white space that you leave between sections does not hurt you in any of our programs, on any of the templates. Somebody asks the question, our company is pre-revenue. Is that any kind of hindrance or disqualifier? Absolutely not. That is not a problem. We have lots of early stage companies, so that is totally fine. Is company contributed labor considered an acceptable match? Absolutely. You will, if you participate in tomorrow's webinar, you will see that that is acceptable as a match. Someone says that they're a one-man entity trying to get their proposal off the ground. They don't have staff or partners. So that's not a problem. We have lots of organizations that are sort of a one-man show or a small organization. If you do have partners or a contingent workforce, that's not a problem. But certainly you're welcome to, you know, as long as you have a project that you're proposing, if you're planning to do all the work yourself, that's totally up to you. That's not a problem. Questions are continuing to come in, so I may have to continue to take little breaks here. But somebody else asked for clarification if there's a page limit on the proposal document. Yes, that is the document. I already mentioned that the appendix has page limits, and the proposal document does as well. So again, you'll need to refer to your program, the program guidelines for the program that you are applying to, but you'll want to make sure that you adhere to those page limits. So somebody asked the question about company contribute labor. So I had mentioned that company contributed labor is an acceptable match. So the person asks a very good question, which again, I will address tomorrow in the budget webinar. But absolutely on the budget narrative, you do need to include the details of how many hours. And so on the budget part of it, you'll want to include the number of hours and the pay rate for the labor. But then in the proposal and work plan, you would also include, yes, so to answer your question, yes, you would want to include a description of the work that will be done in the work plan. The budget narrative is where you would maybe sort of break out the difference between the hours for match versus what you're requesting from CRCF, but in the work plan, you just need to sort of do a high level, well, a detailed description of the work, but you don't, in the work plan, you don't need to differentiate between what work will be for match and what work will be for the CRCF funded portion. So somebody asks, if a university is interested in the proposed project, what is the best way to bring them as a part of the team? So that's really, for you to initiate contact with the university and for you to sort of establish that relationship. If they're going to be working on the project with you, you do need to have an IP agreement with the university so that when it comes time to commercialize the technology, there's a clear understanding of who owns the IP and how that will work. If you're planning to have someone come on as a subcontractor, that's something that needs to be addressed in your budget and budget narrative. Again, you as the prime need to be doing 51% of the work, but otherwise that's kind of up to you. If you have, from our perspective, if you have a university interested in working with you, that's fantastic. We're happy to see collaborations, but that's, I guess there's a lot of ways that could look. So it's sort of for you and the university or some other subcontractor or consultant. It's for you, as long as your what you're planning to do meets our guidelines, then it's up to you to sort of decide what that looks like. So someone asks the question, which I think I have now addressed, but I'll go ahead and read it. They said, should the work plan only include the actual CRCF funded labor and not the matching labor? No, the work plan needs to cover all of the work that you intend to do. So if you think of the project as, I think in my webinar tomorrow, I sort of give the example that although you're requesting $50,000 from us, what you're presenting to us is a $100,000 project, because you'll have the $50,000 from us and then the $50,000 of benefit from your contribution, from your match. So the work plan should encompass all of that. So I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think we're going to go ahead and wind down on this webinar. If you do think of a question later, please feel free to reach out to us at crcf@cit.org. I noticed that a lot of these questions do seem to be budget related, so again, consider joining me tomorrow when I talk specifically about the budget and budget narrative. I think that information will be really helpful. And before I go, I'd just like to thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing your application soon. Thanks.